You're going to spin off this planet. I love it. Keep at it.
Okay, I swear that y'all turned me into the villain. I couldn't escape. Not saying I'm the best at what I do. I'm just saying that it's me versus whoever want to lose. Pick any one of the who's. I got 2 twos.
It's very humbling and embarrassing right now.
What did you tell your team at the half?
I said we got to be able to look each other in the eye, man to man, and give it up for one another this whole second half. I want to see this team fight.
Good evening, Lions faithful, and welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Spins. It's me, your host, Schnoids, here with BPC and RG, and we've got a packed show for you today. The boys are spiraling after a dominant win at Lambeau Field. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and also the awesome from this game. We've got our first interview with Diehards in the Den. Talked to Steve Mitch, who had boots on the ground in Lambeau. We'll do our dogs of the week.
The Dobie dog of the week.
The Dobie dog of the week. New sponsor alert. Shout out Alex Bowles. We'll then get into our certified ball knower competition, preview the Panthers game, and close up with hanging some banners, which I'm really excited to do this week. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll dive into this Lions game. And it was the most dominant win that I've ever seen us have over the Packers in my entire life as a Lions fan. I was moving across country, touching down in LA. I'm watching this game on my phone, and I can't believe how badly we're beating them in the first quarter alone. I know, RC, when we talked about this a little bit earlier, I think, was it 27-3 at the end of the first?
27-3 in the first half, and I think the first quarter was like 24 to 3.
It was just an ass kicking just to open it, and it felt like we completely sucked the life out of Lambeau. I mean, I know we all got a little bit of those jitters when Goff threw that first pick, and you're like, oh no, is it not our time? Or are we going to blow it on this big stage? But you saw Jared Goff bounce right back. Our defense completely bail us out after that interception. Mm-hmm. And it felt like once we stopped them on the 20-yard line when they had that good of starting field position and held them to 3, that you knew it was going to be a long day for Jordan Love.
Yeah, man. I mean, the complementary football, people talk about that a lot, but the defense picks our offense up, and in the Seattle game, the offense kind of pulled the defense along, and it's really cool watching this team work. And I mean, I felt the same way in that second quarter. You still look up at the screen, but this does not seem real. We're up 21 in Lambeau against the definitive, other threat in the NFC North, and we're just way, way better than them and absolutely bullying them. I think the initial thought is, I mean, I'm kind of wondering if Isaiah Buggs just buys an apartment in Lambeau. I mean, he owns Lambeau. That man was just ready to rock. It was so
That
awesome.
was a fantastic fat man sack, just right up the middle, bullying your way in there. Yeah. That was the good, man, is our defensive line. You wanted to know if it was a mirage. Obviously, last week there was some questions around how talented of an offensive line we were playing, with the Falcons being a bit banged up and being more of a run offense, even though we stopped that too. And it was like, okay, can you do it in back-to-back weeks? And we showed out. I mean, it was everybody all across the line, and again, which I think is a really good story to see Aleem get home. I think Benito got home. I think Hutch
it looked like
got
everybody
home.
was getting home.
Yeah, Harris got home. It was just like a sack party on Jordan Love, and he couldn't really get anything going at all in that first half. And the only thing you were thinking is, how can we possibly keep this pace up of being this dialed in, playing this ferocious? It was, and you saw him come back out the next half, and it wasn't quite as dominant. But I also think that part of the bad from them was the refs, man. I thought the refs tried really hard in that second half to try and give it a little swing towards the Packers, a little swing towards Lambeau, battling through some penalties that I thought were somewhat questionable in the second half that started to bail them out and gave them that first touchdown. But the Lions were like, yeah, we don't care. And I know Cleary will love it, is Anzalone was playing like an animal. Again, like he was for sure the good. He was hitting everything.
Well, I was going to say, Jordan Love looked sad, uncomfortable. I just watched the replay, and he was on the sideline, looked depressed. That's one of my awesomes. And then the other thing I'm going to say is, this is going to be a banner later, is Matt LaFleur coming out of the locker room at halftime, and he is depressed. And in his interview, he's like, I want to see my guys fight.
I thought he was going to cry.
I'm like, dude, is this guy crying right now on TV?
It made you think maybe we would it would be like a Dolphins type over the Broncos when we put up 27 in the face. Like, are we going for 70 here? But we kept it calm. You know, pride still matters, Cleary. So,
pride definitely still matters. You know, that St. Joan of Arc. We all remember the St. Joan of Arc JV football T-shirt. Pride still matters. I was at Tin Lizzy. I said it before. I've said it again. I'll say it again. Watching Lions games at Tin Lizzy is awesome. And
an electric factory.
I think when we were up 3 scores in the first half, some random dude came up to me and was yelling that, like, I think he said something along the lines of "fuck the Dolphins, we can score 70," and we were just going back and forth for like a good 10-15 seconds. We were both yelling "why not us" at each other, and then he just went on his way. You know, went to the bathroom, and then that's just like the environment in Tin Lizzy, and that's kind of how it felt. Even when it was within the score, on both sides of the ball, we were bullying them in a way that I don't remember the Lions ever doing to a team, let alone, you know, the perennial favorite in NFC North at Lambeau. I mean, I can't stress enough, like, this is definitely sort of a frog in boiling water situation. We've been building up to this moment for the past, I would say, exactly 1 year, but that we've been really playing legit football. But if you would have told, if you would have told us in September of 2022 that we would be doing that, you'd be crazy to say that this is happening. And I just think it's pretty awesome. So that's my awesome. It's just like, you take a step back and realize that this is happening right now.
And appreciate it.
It feels like a top of the world moment, Cleary, 100%. And I think it comes down to, as well, just this team's really built for it in a way that the previous ones haven't been, because we're so much more physical than I've ever seen a Lions team before. And for all the fantasy football hate that may be out there, is Montgomery is most certainly in the good categories. To have a guy that you can rely on and just send him up the middle and off the guards for 30 carries, over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, they didn't want any of Montgomery. And I just love the storyline going in for him too, that he'd never beaten the Green Bay Packers. And I think in the post-game interview, he was talking about that. He's like, I'm so excited. Just tell my son that I beat the Green Bay Packers. And I think that's funny, and I really wanted more follow-up questions there. Be like, has your son been giving you shit about this? Like, is your son the biggest hater you have back home? He's like, yeah. He's like, I had a 1,000-yard rushing season. He's like, still ain't beat the Packers.
Yeah.
You trash ass. So I'm happy for Montgomery. I think that's like a good, potentially awesome from him. You know, just to see us being able to run the ball when everyone in the entire stadium knows that's what we're going to do. And it's like, yeah, sure, but you're not going to stop it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That was a huge story for us.
It doesn't matter if there's a big hole, a small hole, no hole. The guy's going to fall forward and get yards. That's what Montgomery does. It's amazing. I love that guy. He's definitely
he's just a football player. He loves contact. You can tell he's he like prides himself on getting up quickly after getting hit hard and looking defenders back and making sure that they're feeling it more than he does. It's
the double knee slide, just praising the Lord after he like got that touchdown. That's what it felt like for, I feel like, the whole city of Detroit when he punched that in. It was just
Literally.
like, it felt like Andy Dufresne after crawling out of just a tunnel of shit that was these past couple of seasons of coming up short and not being those guys. It was like, no, we're here. King of the North is not a joke.
Get busy living, Dave.
I wanted to mention this just so I don't forget, but I wanted to put this in the bad, is that the people that do listen to the podcast have been telling me that, and Aluya had mentioned it to me, that when I do the dog bark sound, like whenever we do dog of the week, they like jump back and they think it's like a real dog. So I gotta switch up a dog bark sound effect because people say it's too real, and it sounds like a dog.
maybe like a howl of some sort.
So yeah.
But you gotta put some kind of noise in there.
And Brian also said that.
I'm gonna put dog. Absolutely.
I'm gonna put some. Yeah, he's gonna get like a werewolf sound or something because he's elevated past dog for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he was. I do think RC, one of the other people that we got to talk about from a good perspective as we kind of close out on the offense is we got to talk about our 2 boys. So one, it has to be Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra had an electric performance. He got in the end zone early. He got his Lambo leap on and then got a beer just dumped on his head. And he's like, that's all good, man. That's all fun. He goes in and he's like, I want that. Like, I expect that. He was playing the heel all night and delivering in the big moments. I mean, it's so awesome to see him not only be your best wide receiver, arguably your best offensive weapon, but also just embrace the role of it's almost like a strong safety mentality that he has, that he wants to get through you and he wants to talk that fucking shit after he does. So that was a magical performance by Amon-Ra.
There was also a tight end that played pretty good. What's his name, Cleary? On the Lions?
That's you're thinking of
what's his name?
Rookie sensation Sam Laporta.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good one today.
I was that catch that he broke in that first drive.
Oh yeah.
I noticed that on like the next gen stats or whatever that the NFL puts out that he didn't even make the top 5 and fastest top speed of week 4, which was kind of surprising to me because I clocked him just on my manual count at least 25 miles an hour when he was running there. So there must have been something malfunctioned with their system. You know how Amazon is, but I mean, hell of a game. I think it kind of goes without saying. I think it's worth noting that Jared Goff has shown a lot of persistence and the ability to bounce back from bad throws. Not only the interception, but shortly before that catch, I saw some people online saying that Sam Laporta dropped a catch, but it was terrible pass towards Laporta. He barely got his hands on it, and it was incomplete. I mean, if some might say that was a drop, but it would have been an amazing catch if he did catch it. So, I mean, kudos to Goff for bouncing back after such a bad throw and really putting together a good game because Laporta catches everything. And the next play, he jumped over, caught it over a guy, and obviously he broke that big one that totally set the tone for the rest of the game. So, I mean, we know what SLP does. He's a proven entity. Scored the a big,
tight end number 1.
Yeah, it's funny because after that drop, which was obviously in no way Sam Laporta's fault, he goes and makes.
Don't say drop.
Yeah,
cut that.
Yeah. He goes and makes that the most ridiculous catch ever.
Yeah,
he's balling, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he made that one look easy because every ball is easy. That wasn't a drop. It wasn't a drop.
He was a baller, and speaking of someone who normally has drops that turn them into picks, it was Jerry Jacobs, man. And Jerry Jacobs, after getting baptized on Twitter for his poor performance versus Seattle, has really rebounded nicely in back-to-back weeks. He definitely falls in the good category to have 2 picks that were both in critical moments, and I felt like really kept this game out of reach for Jordan Love. I felt like that was one of the huge keys, because when you have these rookie quarterbacks, they're going to throw balls that are either picks or should be picks, and it's just about turning them into like opportunities and capitalizing them on offense. And I thought we did that really well. So it was awesome to see him, because I mean, you don't know. I think next week it may be Mosley's going to be coming in more. We thought last week in the preview that he may be getting his first set of snaps this week, but they kept him on the sideline. So Jerry Jacobs putting together some good tape to try and keep that cornerback number 2 job. And I just love to see a guy bounce back, especially an undrafted free agent like him.
Yeah. We've talked about this before, but I don't know if you guys remember last year when JMO was starting to get healthy, we saw DJ Chark turn from a fairly good receiver to a solid option for the team. And I do think that is already Mosley is kind of having an impact, because Jerry Jacobs has to be hungry, and he has to earn this spot and earn playing time going forward. Especially when the front office goes out and gets a guy like Mosley, there's going to be some pressure to deliver on that. And so Jacobs is obviously going to be behind the 8 ball, and he's proven that he belongs on the field. And at the very least, we're going to have good depth when Mosley is healthy and ready to go. I think the other main thing is, what's going to happen with Branch going forward also.
Yeah, also no one's taking Cam Sutton's spot, because that dude's letting up 26 yards per game at passes thrown at him. The guy's going absolutely crazy.
It is. I do think that brings up one of the only bads that I will have from this game. And it's around, I thought some of the player personnel choice later in the game didn't make a ton of sense to me. I understand that, as we all know, Brian Branch is an absolute dog, and he's not going to stay off the field. But I think that when the game was solidly in hand there, I didn't like seeing him go back in the game. I thought that we definitely could have left him out. I thought we could have pulled the starters a little bit earlier. I thought that was an interesting message that Campbell sent, because even on that last series, they still had everybody in. They were like, no,
they were just running it down their throat at the end.
I want my dogs to like eat and feast on this big moment, which I totally get. But I thought that was a little shaky for me. And the one other thing that did catch my eye that I feel like is something that needs to be shifted immediately in the next game is I saw Tracy was going down on kickoffs. And that's a no for me, because Tracy's now like the number 1 safety, and we don't have a lot of depth behind him. So I'd like to see Tracy off of the kickoff team just for my mental health. But other than that, I thought a pretty clean game. Did anybody else have?
I have one other bad, and it was Jack Fox had an off game where he didn't punt that well. And then even though he had that off game, we almost recovered one because the punt was so short. It kept bouncing. And,
that was wild.
And Jaden Reed tried to catch it on the double bounce, and we almost recovered that. So even though he had a bad punting game, it almost turned into a sort of us recovering the punt situation, which I thought was things going our way again, which was kind of cool. But yeah, that was really the only real bad that I had is Jack Fox.
That was such a rookie returner move by Reed.
Oh, Jaden Reed,
let that one fucking bounce, man.
Yeah. I think to your point, Noid, I agree. Branch obviously shouldn't have been in the game that second time around. If it's like a playoff game, NFC Championship or something, then roll him out there. But the game was in hand. That wasn't great. And he clearly had some instability there. Maybe it's just a calf strain. But I think honestly though, keeping the offense out there. It's easy to say this now because we didn't have any injuries, but I thought that was cool. Campbell's clearly sending a message, and it's not going to make it on the the video that they post on Twitter. But there are little signs and inklings that he's kind of losing it a little bit in the best way possible. And he's just kind of getting nutty a little bit. And they the way Amon-Ra carried himself after catching a fourth and 3 stick with time expiring and up two scores, there was no question about it. There was nothing like kind of doubt about what we were doing. And I think I like that. Like all of our best Detroit sports teams, when going back to the bad boys, there's always going to be a little animosity, and I like that Campbell is kind of pushing back from this culture in the league that we're boys with our division opponents, and I have so much respect. Like that's okay to say to the media, and that's okay to put out, but Campbell clearly does not like the Packers, and that was pretty evident with that call. So I loved it. Obviously, with hindsight and no injuries, that's cool to say. But I see what he's doing, and you heard a little bit when he's talking about thanking the Stafford for dealing with me and dealing with what I demanded. Campbell's a little crazy, and yes. You need that in a good head coach. So I'm sure some stories about that are going to come out later about his thought process there. Yeah.
And I like that too. And I mean, the crazy thing is now is you take a look at Dan Campbell's record versus the Packers, and he's 4-1 through 2.5 seasons versus them. So I don't know if a Lions coach could ever have 2 previous seasons, and then we're halfway through the Packers series this year. So he's 4-1. Which
you're right. Yeah, 4. Yeah,
no, but he remembers those years as a player. I have to imagine. I think I may have been at a Thanksgiving game when he was on the team when we were disrespected, and I bet someone said something to him coming off the field, and it's kind of one of those situations. Like who hurt you, Dan Campbell? Was it Brett Favre? Was it Clay Matthews? Aren't you guys glad they don't have Clay Matthews anymore?
Oh, thank God, man. Try to get his doppelganger a little bit with Anzalone, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Smart. He was a dog. He was a dog too.
Yeah. If we're going into the defense, I mean, he's continued to be the face of our defense. Tracy Walker, as expected, just came in there flying around. But those guys didn't want to play anymore, and I called it. Luke Musgrave. I don't think he finished the game.
He did.
He actually did not finish the game, and he had 1 catch. He
went in at halftime, Cleary, and he had a concussion. That was like a pretty much verbatim call from you last week.
I'm telling you, man. Caleb Williams, he'd be smart to stay in college if the Bears are going to be dialed in for this number 1 pick. Like rookies do not want to play the Detroit Lions, and that's pretty awesome.
And today we've got here a new segment, Diehards in the Den, and we've got the man, the myth, the legend who dumped a whole gallon on himself of milk for the Lions after they lost the playoffs and went completely viral on ESPN. It's none other than Steve Mitch.
Boys, thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller, and again, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Hell yeah. So, Steve, to start off on this segment, what we want to do with everybody that comes on the show is, since it is Diehards in the Den, we want to know a little bit about what made you a diehard. What was the moment that you felt like made you a diehard for the Lions?
Of course, and I've kind of thought about it for a while, especially over the past few years. It definitely dates back to the start of Matthew Stafford. I had 4 separate Matthew Stafford jerseys over the 12, 13 years he was here. I just was so locked in on this guy. And I really had to question myself, like, am I a Stafford fan or am I a Lions fan? And really, I had some self-doubt in myself this first year without him. Like, I remember the night they traded Stafford away. I was already downtown with my buddies. We were drinking all day. The first thing we had to do, someone saw on Twitter, I was like, we got to go to Ford Field. We have to go to Ford Field right now and light candles and end this properly. About 15 of us, there's a good picture from that night, but about 15 of us marched on over to Ford Field, lit our candles, laid our Stafford's jerseys down in front of Ford Field, and, paid our condolences. We said goodbye to the guy.
Wait, so did you actually leave all of your jerseys for Stafford there?
No, we just laid them down. I picked them back up. I would never lose those things. I'm going to have those for the rest of my life.
Okay, good. I needed that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not giving those things up.
I need a couple more clarifications too. So one, what were, if you had 4 Stafford jerseys, what color selections did you go with? Did you mix in like one of the alternate black ones in there?
Yeah, I even got one of those that they never even really wore. I think they just like kind of released them and never wore them. Like the newer black ones. I had a Georgia red with the captain. He had to have the C on it.
Fire.
I had the alternate gray, and then of course the Honolulu blue, which I've always said is like one of my top 3 possessions of my life.
It's crispy. It's all right. Also, so obsessed with Stafford, but you've also had some interactions with Stafford. The one I remember specifically is the one at the Pistons game with you and Kelly. You got a little nod and a little point after that yell. Did that cement it for you? That had to be a big moment.
I mean, that was like my birthday weekend. Like I think I was at the Lions game that day, and then the Pistons game at night. So we showed face at the LCA. Came walking down. I sniped him from across. I'm like, oh my god, he's about to walk right by me with Kelly. Who has me blocked on Instagram, by the way? We can talk about that as well, and still blocked to this day. But that's another story. But yeah, they came by. Brought my phone out, got a great video. Told him how I really feel, basically telling him I love him. And got a nice little smirk from him, and that's it right there. That's why I knew he knows who I am. I know who he is, and we're gonna be best friends.
I love that story, and I think that getting a block from Kelly Stafford is actually, that's a positive sign from you, because she's actually the most negative thing in Matthew Stafford's life. She's the only thing that makes TMZ write articles about him. So I think that actually makes you more of a Stafford fan.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that'll get you unblocked, though.
No.
I'm over it. I gave up. I mean, it was stupid. I would just comment like on her Instagrams, like what up, like say what up, because he wasn't on. So I had to be like, tell Matt I say what up, and then I got blocked. So I don't see the big deal. But
you Seth Greened her?
Yeah, pretty much that's what I was going for, and it happened a few times my sophomore year of college, and after that, I was like, oh my god. The worst part is I miss out on I miss all his children's like growing up. I'm missing up on their whole life stories. I do follow her podcast on Instagram, so I get a little bit there. But there was years where like I don't know if these are girls or guys, and like what's going on, how old they are, like do they care? Like I just had no idea.
That's a tough cross for you to bear, man. But
yeah,
I think some of these new wins, this new look Lions is. Life's moved on. Stafford's got his Super Bowl, and we're building a contender here. So I want to talk a little bit with that in mind of us taking this huge, big step. We go into Lambeau, dominate in Lambeau from start to finish, and close with a sea of Lions fans out there gathered around the Thursday night crew, one of which was you. So take me into what the vibes were like in Lambeau.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll just tell you about my day from the start. Kind of, I was in Chicago before, flew in the night before, left at about 11 a.m., got in Green Bay about, I would say 2:33. Everyone, it's crazy around there. I know you guys will get this kind of like, it was giving me like St. Clair Shores vibes, a bunch of like kind of ranch houses that people just rent out as Airbnbs. And it just so happened the one we stayed in, we were about like a little less than a 20-minute walk from the stadium, was literally a blue house, just a light blue house. Everything was blue inside. And I'm like, oh my God, this is meant to be. Like, this is the Lions house.
Was it that sick? I've heard about that, and I've spent some time in Green Bay. They actually have a pretty big neighborhood that sits around the actual Green Bay field. And those rent out for a ton of money, and honestly is nothing like the rest of the community. So that's really sick that you got to stay in there. Was it like mostly Green Bay Packers fans within that neighborhood?
Yeah, most definitely the walk there. You'd get a little Honolulu blue here and there, but I mean, you'd have people start blocks away, kind of starting to set up tailgates. The more I walked through the neighborhood, you'd kind of go by a few hotels. Then we finally got into kind of the bar scene. I stopped by 2 bars, pretty crazy, nothing like Detroit has. And it was a straight up party. Everyone was dancing. Everyone was drinking, literally having dance-offs with Green Bay fans, doing my crazy legs to kind of throw them off before game time. And yeah, it was special to start. And honestly, once we got through the bars, I was getting antsy. Probably like an hour and 15. I'm like, this is special. We got to go to the stadium. So got through the whole bar scene, walked through the parking lot, which was just a straight up tailgate, like just trucks, cars everywhere, tents set up, Lions fans, Green Bay fans, food, beer everywhere. Had to grab my last few beers. I'd stop at any Lions tailgate just to be like, hey, a fellow diehard here, I need one. And they would have one for me. So great hospitality from the Lions fans there. And even some Green Bay fans, they were good. They were giving away too.
I like that. They got the Wisconsin Midwestern niceness. I like that. But I'm curious what the ratio was like, because I was seeing some pictures online. It almost felt like it was, I don't know, like 30-70 or something.
That's what I was going to say. And kind of, if you fast forward to the end of the game, you really got to see on TV down there. I was in lower bowl, about 30 rows up, on the home side though. So yeah, not a big deal. But I was on the away side, so I wasn't in the giant blue wave, but I had the best view of it. So I could really tell over there it was going. I was more in the kind of the enemy territory, which I like. That's how I rather go about it. But yeah, overall, I would say 70-30 Green Bay, but you could definitely feel our presence there all night.
So take me through it, because obviously it was a game that we ran away with pretty instantly. There's the first quarter, our first drive, obviously Goff throws a pick, and you have a little oh no moment, but then we just turn on the Jets and leave them behind. I think that it was maybe 21-3 at the end of the first. Yeah, just like an ass kicking. So what was it like being surrounded by Green Bay fans as that's going on?
Definitely that pick to start. You know what, they picked that off. They were in inside the 20 at least, if not closer. Mm-hmm. But it was like, all right, I'm here. We're in one. We're in Lambeau. But when we did hold them to 3 right there, I knew I was like, all right, this is how the game's gonna go. We set the tone. I get it. Goff had his one mistake, but our defense stepped up. I'm like, all right, we're here to play. This one's for the NFC North.
And were the Packers fans, did they just go completely radio silent?
Yeah, for the most part, they did. In that first half, we really took control and never looked back after that. I think, again, that whole first half we controlled, and they didn't really get back into it until I believe they were down 16 points in the second half. And they got the ball back. And that's when I woke up. Something took over me. I was like, whoa, this is a couple years ago when I'd be all in on Stafford, crazy guy, and just something took over me. I didn't sit the rest of the game starting halfway through the third, arms crossed with the craziest look in my face. At one point, the section over, there was this girl just looking at me. I don't know if she was checking me out or what, but we made eye contact for 5 seconds, and I just slapped myself in the face so hard and just gave her the craziest look, and her jaw dropped and she just looked away. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh my God, I'm in one. I'm locked in. We're winning this game. And really after that, I don't even think they scored, or maybe they got a field goal from that point when they were down 16, but after that, it just didn't even get close again. We ran control that game.
I love that. That's the mentality it felt like was coming from all the Lions players. You had a lot of guys on that team that were really committed to beating Green Bay too, man. You're channeling your David Montgomery.
Yeah, no, you're playing violent. You're playing violent in the stands.
And anything the fans kind of did have to say, just to kind of throw them off, I'd be like, I Jordan love you. That's all I just kept saying. I Jordan love you, dude. I Jordan love you. I Jordan love you guys. And they're like, what is this guy doing? What does this mean? And they were just so confused by it, as well as just calling them all shitty owners. I just assumed everyone in my section, because Green Bay, the fans own it or whatever. So I was just like, you're a shitty owner, dude. And that's what I was giving it to them all game.
That's a great A turn. That's a great, because it starts at ownership.
Definitely. And it was just so weird, dude. I have no respect for people that don't stand on third down. Even at Ford Field, people in my section, when we're on defense at third down, I go nuts on people. Week 1 or week 2, whatever, the first home game, I had a guy, say, hey, it's down in front, and I lost it. I was like, get the hell out of 117, go sit up in 317 in the fucking nosebleeds. You don't belong in the lower bowl. But yeah, even third down, in Lambeau, I'm like, people weren't standing. I'm looking in by section. I'm like, is this Lambeau? Is this what you guys do at Lambeau? Like, this is
Bad
not why I
sports
came
town?
here. Yeah, like
Potential bad sports town behavior.
Exactly. And another thing I've kind of just learned over the years, like going into hostile territory, you know, I've been to Minnesota, I've been to Soldier, I've knocked off the whole division. But my thing to throw them off is to kind of sarcastically cheer for them throughout the game. Like whenever their defense is on third down, I'm the first one to pop up. I'm trying to give everyone up and going. Because when we do get that first down, I want to see the hopelessness just fall out of their face. And that's all I would, you know, I was just yelling, come on, everyone get up, hands in the air, and then just turn around and look, and I'm like, yep. And, you know, that's kind of was the tone the whole game. They just never had a chance. I had to cheer for them. That's what it came to.
I mean, I love that out of you. I love the mentality. And I'm just curious, once you did get that handle win at the end, I know a lot of Lions fans did stay back and huddled up around the Thursday night crew. Were you part of that?
So, like I said, I was on the other side, and I really started to soak it in. You know, I thought about running over there again behind the blue wave, but I got down the first row in my corner, and I kind of really didn't say a word, and I kind of really didn't blink. I just, halfway through the fourth, people started funneling out. I got down there, stood on the bleachers. Again, there's no chairs there. It's all bleachers. It's wild. But, you know, stood on there in the first row and just kind of oversee everything and took it in. I'm like, this is an unreal sports experience I've never seen before. I don't know when I'll be here again, if I'll be here again, and just really soaked it in that September fall weather, the crisp night. It was unbelievable. Just really overseeing it. But I did stay on that side other from the Lions blue wave.
Dude, I think you did it perfectly, man. The last place you want to be is in Lambeau, like in December. Like that's just too cold. I've done like late November games in Chicago and Soldier Field and stuff, and it is just so cold. Like you go and it's a whole experience, but you made the right move going in there in September. That's easy. That's easy money. It's an easy fan experience, and I feel like us having a little trouble with the cold sometimes. Yeah. I mean, you knew golf was going to be ready and warm to go in this one and get the W. So I appreciated Steve you coming on, and I have a feeling as we do more of these interviews and more boots on the ground that you may be back on here. So I have to ask.
No, Steve's coming back on for sure.
Oh, for sure. So are you planning on going to any other game on the road?
No road games this year. How I want to wrap up kind of this Lambeau conversation though is, you're right. January, that is a scary place to play. I kept saying that, like overlooking the sky. I'm like, when it's, -10 at night here, this is not where you want to be. But what I do compare to like Lambeau Field, have any of you been to a Coldplay concert?
No.
Okay.
But I know someone who has.
So a Coldplay concert, I went at Soldier Field a few summers ago, and like when you walked in that stadium, like the air was different. So like when I left the concourse in Lambeau, walked up, like it just hit me. Like I was just sucking in the air. I'm like, this is the best air I've ever had, and I was just sucking it all up. And like that's what I'm like. I feel like I'm at a Coldplay concert right now. And if anyone listening been to Coldplay, you'll know it's just a special experience. And that's really what Lambeau felt in a way.
That compliment also feels like an insult. Steve Mitch, Packers games like a Coldplay concert.
In a way it is. But the Coldplay concerts rock and Lambeau rocked. It was very cool. My exit to Lambeau Field. This one the fans didn't like too much. Walking out, gave my last look over the stadium, just the field kind of empty, just the wave of blue, the light shining over. I get in the concourse, and after just a few drinks, I decide to kiss the ground. I'm like, I'm going to make my mark my territory, and that's when a few people started yelling at me, act like you've been here before, blah blah blah, and I literally get up in a much more aggressive way and say, I literally haven't fucking been here before. Like, when have I been 3-1, like at Lambeau Field, like just kicked your ass and in control the North? Like, I have not been here. Very few people have. So I'm going to kiss the ground and leave my mark.
I like that. I do think that that's a good theme in general for this season, Steve, is that a lot of people try and rain on your fun, be like, act like you've been there before, act like you've been an elite team. Well, guess what? We never have. And you got to enjoy every single step along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what the season's all about for me. Like after week 1, I got home, I laid in bed for an hour and kind of just thought about it and just like how special this really could be and to really soak it in. Hey, if it doesn't end with a Super Bowl, it doesn't end with a Super Bowl, but this is the start of something big and it's so special. Things are going to go wrong at one point. You know, we may lose a game we're not supposed to. We may lose 2 games we're not supposed to. But, you know, I think this team's what it got to hold it together. And at the end of the day, we're going to be in the playoffs and we're going to win this division and we'll go from there.
How about the running backs? We got Aiden Dennis, dog. Dodie Devon, dog. Sir Hale,
Dog of the week going forward will be the Dobie Dog of the Week. That's Dobie Real Estate Dog of the Week, sponsored by Alex Bowles, the real estate agent that will be a dog for you. So a little bit of a peek behind the scenes as well with this sponsorship money. What we're going to be doing is, because I don't know, for those of you that are tracking at home in the certified ball knowers competition, the coin went 3 for 3 this week. So we're going to take that money, because this is a gambling podcast here, that we're going to take that money and we're going to throw it on the 3 picks as a parlay that the coin picks every week. So that'll be a little bit of an extra wrinkle we'll throw in here to the certified ball knower competition. But with that, we'll do the Dobie Dog of the Week. My first one for Dog of the Week, it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. As I said, he had that Lambeau leap that was beautiful to start the game, and I felt like really set the tone from the Lions standpoint. But what also got me going was towards the end, as he's going around, he's smacking all the different Lions fans' hands, and he runs into a Packers fan, but that's not a hand, that's a middle finger. And Amon-Ra just blows him a little kiss to that middle finger and keeps it moving. I just love like his dog mentality. That is the quintessential Dog of the Week.
Yep. He hates this division. Everybody in this division talk shit to his brother, talk shit to
Detroit
the fans.
versus everybody.
Absolute dog.
Confirmed. As Jim Harbaugh said, disciplined athlete with grit.
Mm-hmm.
That man is a dog. My dog. I mean, the whole offensive line. What they did was running the ball in Lambeau like that was pretty cool to see. And like I said, I like unprecedented in my mind. Even that Packers game late, we weren't dominating like that. But I think just to go specifically, Graham Glasgow's got to be my Dog of the Week. It's not often that you kind of are going into your depth chart a little bit and going on the road this early in the season. And to still dominate and push them around like that, especially in our interior offensive line. I don't think there are many teams, if any teams NFL, that can go to their backup guard and really not miss a beat like that. So just an absolute dog performance. Penny obviously had a big game too. Rashawn Gary was invisible. Quay Walker just continued to embarrass himself trying to deal with our offensive line. So.
Yeah, I mean, Graham Glasgow's got to be one of the best backup right guards in the entire league. I think we got Big V coming back this week because I saw that he practiced today, but
yeah,
it's so great to have that depth. That guy's a fucking monster. Taylor Decker was banged up. He played well. That's coming into my dog, which was the guy that ran so well because of our offensive line, which was David Montgomery, who was basically a werewolf. I upgraded him to werewolf after last week, who was also playing banged up. 32 carries, 120 some yards, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, and we got that 4th and 1 touchdown score where he really didn't even have a hole on that one, and he just banged heads and with 2 guys and just pummeled himself into the end zone. And it was just sort of the way that we were running that ball is everything that, you know, Dan Campbell is. Like the way we were pushing those guys around on the offensive line, the way that, you know, David was just finding yards on every single play, even when we didn't have any. He just falls forward every single time. Thought, you know,
and he got stronger as it went along too. RC.
Bro, he kept every single time he got hit, it like amped him up.
Yes.
He just started barking at these dudes. And our offensive line started playing. But it was just an incredible performance by the offensive line. Some of these holes that they were showing, the fans were, some people were like, well, I could, the Jameer Gibbs, like fantasy owners were like, well, I could run through this this line. And honestly, you probably could, because some of these holes were fucking crazy. So honestly, they're kind of in a tandem, the offensive line and David Montgomery, but he was running his fucking ass off that game. And
I agree.
He always breaks at least one tackle.
Yes, and I think what people could do, you could run once or twice, but if you got hit pretty hard, you would just wouldn't want to play anymore, and you physically couldn't do it anymore. Like your brain wouldn't let you. And on the flip side, there was that one play. I think it was the second quarter. We were still up, maybe just 14-3, and he got nicked a little bit, and then Quay Walker got a good shot on him, and they kind of met in the hole, and he didn't get much forward progress after that. And Quay Walker was pretty fired up and tried to get the crowd into it, and we just fed him. We just gave the ball right back to Montgomery.
Yeah.
Easy touchdown. And it was very clear what was about to happen the rest of the night.
Every time you stop him a little bit, he gets more energy and more power, and he comes back harder at you again. And they're like, do we have to keep tackling this guy? Because I don't think I can do this all game. And then you got like Jonah Jackson and Glasgow and Decker's like banged up and like pushing you and knocking you over. It's like, how do you even stop these guys? It was incredible. I fucking love the way that we're running the ball, though. We'll put that in the awesome too.
Yeah.
But David Montgomery, Werewolf of the Week, sponsored by Dopey.
Oh yeah. That's fantastic. No, I think you could have given out twice as many dogs this week as we did. Just a fantastic performance all around. But
Anzalone, Sutton, everybody back there too.
Everyone played well.
We'll have to give Sutton honorable dog of the week one of these weeks, just because he's so damn consistent.
Consistent. I think SLP is in that same category.
And same with him too, yeah.
So with that, we'll move on to the certified ball knower contest. Look around the rest of the NFC North this week, where I think we had some really interesting games. To recap us from a record standpoint, right now, Cleary sits up at the top at 8-6. Right there with him is the Coin at 8-6 with a perfect 3-0 week. Then beneath it is me and RC both sitting at 7-7. I also had a 3-0 week, humble brag, but that's whatever. We'll move into this first game, and the one that I want to talk about is Vikings at Panthers. It started off at the beginning is Kirk Cousins had a pick six that I think went the entire length of the field, like a completely crazy play. He tried to make the tackle, which credit to him, because I feel like a lot of quarterbacks just give up on those plays, but he got shelled by the blocker and they walked into the end zone. And when I saw that in the quad box on Red Zone, I was like, oh man, there's no way. Like the Vikings just like folded up. You boys are done. But it ended up being kind of a weird game, and they went back and forth. The Panthers ended up coughing up the ball for one of their own to also give a score to the Vikings. And ultimately, what it looked like to me is that the Panthers kind of folded, man. They were not able to fend off the pressure from the Vikings. Bryce Young was just getting sacked left and right. He looked very small in a Panthers uniform also, by the way. Like he didn't look like he wanted any from the Vikings back there. And the Vikings, who really have looked like a bad rushing team for most of this year, Madison was going in, man. He was like that whole model that they're running, just get a running back that looks like Dalvin Cook and maybe he'll play like Dalvin Cook. He was playing like Dalvin Cook last Sunday. So the Vikings, they got off the board and they finally got that first win.
Yeah, it was funny to see that Kirk Cousins pick six. Like,
yeah,
right.
I mean, he remains the most relatable dude ever. And I feel this way. I've met a couple Vikings fans here in Chicago. I can get why people would love him, but it's really hard to hate him from across the league, because I'm sure he's had multiple conversations with people like, you are our franchise quarterback. You don't have to go chase chase guys down. If you throw a pick in, week 4, just let it ride. But when you're that frustrated, when you throw that bad of a pass, just imagine you're like when you just rip a golf ball out of bounds. At that moment, you want to like break something and like hurt someone. You can, no matter like what you can just go run as fast and hard as you can and just try to hit somebody. And I think that's a pretty awesome thing about football, among many awesome things. And so that's what happened. You could see it. He was just like, I'm gonna go hit something because that was so bad, and I'm better than that. And obviously, and then reality sets in, and the laws of physics had different ideas. But I like feel his pain.
That cornerback was running so fast to get a shot at him. It was so funny. He was running full speed. He's like, I'm going to smoke Kirk Cousins right now.
Yeah. No, and then, that's the flip side, too. That I don't have as much experience on that side, but I know every defensive player, like, they go through a whole camp where the quarterbacks aren't running, like, nearly as hard as them, and they just want to hit a quarterback more than anything. And Kirk Cousins has, like, maybe the most hittable body and just like overall appearance of anyone in the league. And so there was the combination of an unstoppable, immovable object and an unstoppable force. And we saw what happened, but like, damn, dude, that's tough.
It was a good game to see the Panthers in as a little bit of a preview as well. So that's why I was more glued to this game. And I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't want to overlook anybody, especially I kept crying revenge game before we got to Seattle, and then we laid an egg. Obviously, this is a little bit different of a scenario because this is a winless team, but I really don't think anybody on the Lions is going to be overlooking this because that was a really bad taste in your mouth. And also, by the way, as a bump, Seattle's like, they just embarrassed the Giants on Monday Night Football, by the way. Not a bad team. I've had this conversation multiple times. People try and tell me that Seattle's like mid to trash. Not mid to trash, should have beat them, but they're definitely like a kind of good team.
We are good.
We are good.
That's all you have to say. We're good.
Yeah, Seattle's like a 7.4, I want to say. 7.5.
Yeah,
right now.
They're definitely a top 15 team, maybe a top 10 team. But we're top. We're top 3. I meant like out of 10
on like a scale. I honestly don't know where they would be on that, but yeah, like 7.5 out of 10, like football program right now.
Yeah,
I hate really Pete Carroll.
I love Pete Carroll.
I love him, but now they're like our rival now. So I like
they're our nemesis.
We'll see him again. Something tells me.
Well, let's move to the next game, which was a really interesting one. Actually, was the Bears Broncos in the Trash Bowl, and it started off in this one, and it looked like the Bears are about to get on the board, and is Justin Fields actually the guy who's having a field day against the Broncos, who are maybe the worst defense in the league? It feels like they proved that on Sunday a bit. And the Broncos stuck with it and ended up coming all the way back in that game. And it honestly almost made me want to put my tinfoil hat on, because that game really feels like the Caleb Williams Bowl, because that's going to come into play at the end of the year, because both those teams suck. And they're going to come. It's going to be, a differentiator between a win or two and who has the tiebreaker. So while the Bears did lose this game on Sunday, I feel like in a way, with how they're trending, they almost won, because it looks like the writing's on the wall, man, and they really want that number 1 overall pick.
I mean, they were making Justin Fields look good as hell for the beginning of that game, and I think they're up like 28-7. No, they are super ass. I think Big Cat made his power rankings today, and it said it was like terminal case of super ass with 0 chance of recovery or some shit like that. And I was like, dude, this team is fucking screwed, man. Yeah. And it's embarrassing. They're so bad, and so were the Broncos. They should have not won that game, but I was rooting for the coins parlay to hit, so I had to keep like rooting
Keep
for
the
the
faith.
Broncos to like somehow pull this off. There was zero reason.
Yeah,
they
I
should
mean,
have won the game.
I've said it before. There's only so many ways to say how just great it is to be around like Chicago local like sports media while this is happening, and it like because it's such a familiar feeling of the hilarious ways in which they're doing this. It's great, and there's nothing fun about a tank, and they're tanking for the past 3 years straight.
Did you see anybody? Were you around any Chicago fans as that stuff was going on? Because I saw some of them on Twitter, and they were starting to be like, "All right, guys, like we're bad, but we still got our quarterback. Ultimately, get a few wins here and get it in next year with a lot of draft picks." And I feel like after you lose that game, you start to go in your head. You're like, I mean, Justin Fields probably not the guy. Throws the interception in the big moment too. I don't know. I seriously think I want your guys' opinion on this is because if you get the number 1 overall pick, you're always in a horrible team, just like the Bears are. And it's tough because last year they passed on Bryce Young and traded out of the pick. It's like, do you think they have the balls and belief in Fields to do that again?
I think that's why this is so funny. And as a fan of a team that has been losing in really funny ways for a long time, I think he's up for like NFC Offensive Player of the Week, or like the Bears like Instagram account is trying to push for that. So then they're in a tough spot there. If Caleb Williams is available, they should really move on from this relationship. This is not going to happen for them. But no, I think the main experience that I felt from Bears fans is like an all too familiar, like, yeah, we were up 21-7, but this, like, of course we lost. And
Yeah,
that feeling of riding out with the team that keeps doing that to you is admirable. And I mean, we've obviously been there, but it's just so great being on the other side of this.
Like watching a slow motion train crash.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What is like? Do they like Justin Fields? Like, what are they saying?
I think they're split. I think a lot of, which is what you want from your rivals. You ultimately want them to be like, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Because it's easy when the guy just sucks. Like Josh Rosen sucked for Arizona, and you can just be like, okay, well, we got the first overall pick, and there's a lot more electric of a pick. But I think it's a lot more difficult when you see that Justin Fields does have legitimate upside. So that'll be a story, I think, because he has legitimate upside, so I think you could trade him. So it'll be an interesting story to see at the end of the season, like, do they trade him to somebody else and see what he can do at like a more competent franchise, that's what I want. I want them to get the Stafford, even though he's not even close to a Stafford level guy. But to have a guy that you think was good, but you're the problem, and then watch him go somewhere else and be good.
I don't know if they're going to get a first round. I mean, even if he does that every game, I don't know if they're going to.
They won't get a first rounder, dude. They'll get like a
first
third
round pick.
They'll get like a third rounder.
No,
I mean, we'll see.
Them,
I think they could bounce back a little bit, but probably not. They're pretty bad.
I think the general narrative is that like the coaching staff isn't using him appropriately, which I think is true. Like I think
it's true.
He turned it on late in the year last year, partly because they like not late in the year, more like early in the year, but they changed the offense, and I think that's more of a college coach thing is to adapt to wild swings in personnel, and a lot of NFL coaches aren't good at doing that, and we've seen that, and the Bears are seeing that right now. And so, in an ideal world, they hang on to him and they ride out with that line of thinking. That would be perfect for us because he's not a very good quarterback. And
we've got him right where we want him. So I think with that, we can wrap up the recap of last week and look ahead towards this week. So the Lions, we'll start there. We have the Panthers. I think we pretty thoroughly kind of dissected what the Panthers look like in that Vikings game. They look like a team that's led by a rookie that has instability, that their offensive line doesn't really look cohesive. So I think, again, the story of the game there should be trying to get pressure and trying to get after Bryce Young and make it as uncomfortable as possible for him. So I'm really excited to see if AG can put together a third consecutive performance where he really rattles out a quarterback and does some fun things with our linebackers or defensive line, of giving them a lot of interesting looks. What I'm interested in is to see, from a defensive standpoint, what we look like without Brian Branch, because I'm going into this game just assuming that Brian Branch will not be playing. And I think that would be the smart way to play it as well, too, is not to rush him back here when you're playing an 0-4 team. But I think we'll probably see maybe a little bit of Will Harris playing that nickel back. So I'm interested to see what our defense has to bring this week against a really like struggling Panthers team.
Harris played some last week too, and he made a couple good one-on-one tackles. So definitely see him. And then Mosley will get a little bit of playing time too this week. Probably not at nickel. I'm not sure how they're going to use him.
He can play anywhere though. That's the weird part. I don't think that they would put him there, to your point. But the weird part about Sutton and Mosley and CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's obviously gone, but all three of those guys have experience playing inside, outside, and a little bit of safety. So they could move him around, but I think Dan Campbell really trusts Will Harris for whatever reason. I think he's a solid guy. He's a solid guy, but we all have memories of Will Harris just getting torched at different points in his Lions career. So I can't tell you that I feel great about Will Harris. I feel good about Will Harris as a backup, not as like the guy who's going to be starting every week. But I think he can hold down the fort against a Bryce Young-led team.
Yeah. I think that they'll be able to walk Ife down too. I like the way that guy's playing.
The highest rated safety, Cleary, low key, on Pro Football Focus, which we all know is the Rotten Tomatoes of the NFL world, and it's not really real, but it does give you directional idea. Like, they think he's the best safety, and I haven't seen him make a bad play.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Who?
the name that I cannot say.
Oh,
Iffy.
Okay. Mellow. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got you.
Number 6.
Yeah, no, they ran for 300 yards on us last year, and like you said, we got to get pressure, and we've got the best rush defense in the NFL right now, so
if we
keep playing our game the way we're playing it, I want to see them absolutely fucking decimate them. I want it to be 45-0 at halftime. We take the starters out. That's what I want to see. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't take it for granted, like whoever you're playing in the NFL, because then they're going to do what, they did to the Vikings last week, and they gave the Vikings a fucking scare last week. They almost lost that football game. But I do want to see them fucking pummel them.
I mean, if you think that RC, you can imagine what suspected crazy person Dan Campbell is doing all week, especially with like a semi-bye week leading up to this. He's being a psycho about that game, and he won't let anyone forget it. I'm sure it's like all over the boards and stuff. The score, those lines. Mm-hmm. He's like, as an offensive coach, he's like bursting into the defensive meeting room, telling them that the Panthers think we're soft. Like, if we feel like that,
we gotta play violent.
And Campbell has a pretty good feel for the pulse of this fan base. He knows what's at stake here and what this game means for this team.
I think Cleary too as well. One of the things that comes to mind from that Panthers game last year is an entourage scene where Johnny Drama beats Stamos at their house in ping pong, and Stamos is just disgusted and is like, "Oh, you beat me on your shitty like cum stained like table, like this isn't real. Like, you got to play me at your real place." That's what that Panthers game was last year. They had the worst field conditions imaginable. It was concrete. the NFLPA literally put out a complaint after the game because it was like so hard on that field and just brutal conditions. So it's like, yeah, well, welcome to the den, man. We're going to put you in a Ford Field and we're going to lock those doors and we're going to beat the tar out of you.
Yeah. There's going to be a message to be sent, and we're going to send it. I mean, I've kind of beat a dead horse with this, but any rookie that's coming into Ford Field, they're not going to want to play football anymore after a short amount of time. I think
Lock the doors.
I think Bryce Young's going to have a good day, and he's going to. I'm sure he'll get loose a little bit because of what the Seahawks put on film for that kind of passing attack. But
you know what they've done to combat that a little bit, Cleary, has been as far as playing a lot more gap control and trying to just close that pocket. That's been part of putting Campbell, dropping him and having him play some DN snaps. He has been not the best moves to get around, but he's pushing them back and staying right there. So you're not going to be able to get the easy quarterback runs that we gave up. So that's another thing to watch. I think that Campbell's been playing that hybrid D-end linebacker, kind of playing that Sam position. He's been playing that well.
Yeah. I mean, we still have some of that. I mean, the touchdown that Love had when we were in man and totally took our eye off of him. It's going to happen a little bit here and there, but he's just not going to want to play anymore after a little bit. And the way Anzalone is playing, the way Bugs is dictating the line of scrimmage, Aiden is going to continue to get home. I'm excited for it, but it goes without saying our pick is Lions in an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah, and who's Cleary's not finishing the game player of the week on the Panthers?
That's true. That's tricky because I think the Panthers are going to have a tough time. They're going to protect Young and get the ball out of his hand pretty quickly, and I would never want him to get hurt. I don't think that's an issue. He might keep playing, but he's not. He doesn't want to.
He's not going to want to.
And it's gonna feel very clear. So I think it's gonna be Bryce Young. I think DJ Chark's gonna make a play in Ford Field, and they'll be kind of cool. Miles Sanders, he's a hell of a player too.
Just not much of a line.
Shaba Hubbard had 125 yards against us last year on the ground.
Need revenge on that.
Those guys are dogs. Those guys are dogs. The one to watch for is Adam Thielen, because he's even with that uniform, you're not fooling anyone. You're still just a dork. It sounds like he's actually a pretty good guy, but as a football player, he annoys me.
Always will. So with that, let's close out. It's us, Lions across the board. We'll go to the coin. Obviously, it's going to be Lions as the favorite. That'll be heads. And it will be Panthers as the tails. Lions.
Really?
And then this is the same coin. You brought it to LA, right?
Oh, yeah. It's picking.
Wow.
I mean,
this coin, you can't fool him. Yeah. You can't fool this guy.
All right, let's transition to the Chicago-Washington game now. So Washington comes in at a -6.5 favorite. It is going to be in Washington, and this isn't quite the garbage bowl that we had last weekend between Chicago and Denver, which obviously Chicago lost that one and claimed the title of the worst team in the league. But this is kind of adjacent. It's another one in the history of the long, kind of shitty Thursday night football games when we don't play on it. And as I said before, for me, I will not pick Chicago for the rest of the year. I just simply can't. They're too stinky of a team. They fumbled that win from the Broncos. I think it's going to be a sneaky higher scoring game than you'd think because Chicago, from what I was looking at, they have a number of different injuries all across their defense. It does beg the question of like if the the backups may end up being better than the starters for Chicago. But, I mean, for me, I think this will be a higher scoring one on Thursday. And Washington probably wins this one by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah.
Cleary, who are you feeling in this one?
I mean, ultimately, this league, like, the Bears are beyond dead. We've talked about it enough. No need to beat a dead horse, but these are guys that are trying to, make a career and try to get some jobs. So they're professionals. The Bears are a professional organization, but they're just so fucking bad. They're so fucking bad. And I'm just trying to see a way that the Commanders fans can make something out of this win and convince themselves that this is a legitimate NFL franchise. But it's just not happening, unfortunately.
You're not a member of the Howl Band, Cleary?
No, I'm saying the Bears are trash.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not a member of the Howl Band. I think their organization, it feels like they're making moves in the right direction, but they're not very good either. But the Bears don't, as much as they're NFL players and some of the best players in football, at the end of the day, there's no way they're winning this game. So, RC?
Yeah, I think they smack them. I would be astonished if they don't smack them.
Yeah.
And it's also Thursday night, so I don't think it'll be a shootout. I think it'll kind of be about the same game as it was last year, really bad. I don't remember what the score was, but it's going to be bad.
Just
Thursday night game.
Fun watching it.
Thursday night games are generally stinky because people don't have as much practice time. But again, I'm just hoping because I think
unless you're the Lions,
because we're just built for that. But I think the only side plot to watch on this one is it obviously is our Podfathers PMT Bowl, Chicago versus Washington. I was saying before this, Cleary to RC, that I think this is like the second year that they've done this on Thursday Night Football for them. And last year they did a little ode to it, and I think they did the Take On Me song. Between one of the commercial breaks. So I'm gonna see if they do another little ode to them. The last thing I'll say quickly, Cleary, is just, I don't know if you guys saw, it is hilarious to see that the entire NFL just stole their joke around like the NFL being scripted, and now they're just running with it as commercials as if it's completely their idea. It's like watching the unfunny kid in class just steal your joke and tell it to like the hot girl.
No, facts.
I didn't know that they stole that from them.
Yeah.
It was Arian Foster, yeah.
Yes.
But my buddy Dylan was saying this the other day. If it would be amazing if they could quantify this, but how many people watching this game from start to finish do you think are watching it solely to be more informed for the Friday morning Pardon My Take episode? Like they're Pardon My Take listeners that are just watching the game because it's funny seeing those two guys go at it. So
it's most of that, and it is. So it technically didn't come from Pardon My Take. It came from macrodosing. So it was like PFT and Arian Foster just doing a bit, and it just went super mega viral.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to hear what the coin has to say about this game, though.
Oh yeah,
because that guy's freaky.
This is a good one. This is why we keep the coin around, because everybody's got their head on the Commanders. So we'll see if the coin's feeling an upset. So it is Commanders is the heads and the Bears are the tails. And just came up Commanders. Commanders
that
can't
guy
pull
knows
this coin,
ball.
man. Can't.
I think he's going to hit this.
Let's move to the next game. It's going to be a doozy. I think this one will be quick. So it's going to be Kansas City versus Minnesota. So this will be at Minnesota. Currently, the Chiefs are sitting as a -5 favorite over the Vikings. I think we've seen the Vikings play everybody close this year. They have an offense that really keeps them in the game. They have, Kirk Cousins, despite his hilarious pick sixes. has been playing pretty well this year and has been absolutely dealing it and putting up a bunch of yards, as well as Jefferson leading the league. So I think that this one can be close because I haven't seen Kansas City be as explosive as they have been in previous years, but I think it's going to be easy pickings against this Vikings defense, and they won't really carry their end of the deal, and the Vikings will end up losing, and Kirk Cousins is going to probably throw 1 to 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter to seal this one for the Chiefs. So I'm on Chiefs on this one. Cleary?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it going into the Chiefs game earlier in the year, and I think that was the Super Bowl winning Chiefs performance. We are just better, but since then they've showed sides of being human. Since then, that game they were playing really well, and we got their best performance. But that Jets game they looked very human, and I do think Kirk Cousins, like I said, it's hard for me to hate him. It's hard to hate that passing attack. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. And I can already feel the coin is thinking Vikings in this one.
Don't do it.
And I kind of get where the coin's coming from. But I gotta go Chiefs. They're gonna bounce back. They effectively lost that game in prime time against the Jets. And they're gonna try to get back to that week 1 form when they were playing really well against us, and that was a good win that we had week 1.
Really quick side spin before you give your pick here, RC. Is I did think it was absolutely hilarious to see Jets fans bitch about the calls and do the whole like NFL rigged thing. And it's like, first off, that's our bit. Don't steal it. Second off, you're a big market team in New York that they gave all the primetime games to. You're not getting calls rigged against you. That's not how any of this works.
I was retweeting and favoriting all that shit because I love to see a fan base break down that way because I did it probably 1 trillion times myself, so I understand the anger and the frustration with the NFL. I mean, I used to tweet at NFL officiating damn near after every game, so I get it, and I understand. I honestly stand with them. I
feel like I could give a TED talk of some sort about why being a fan of the worst professional sports franchise in the history of sports made me a better person than you. Yes. And I think that this is one part of that like we are keenly aware that life isn't fair, that the world is not fair. And it takes years to understand that. When you're a New York sports fan, maybe you have a good sense of these things, but a lot of fan bases don't really get that like this is just how it works. You lose games that you shouldn't lose for dumb reasons. And I think the more I grappled with that, it set us apart. So now that we're here, we might not ever lose a game again.
I mean, the thing, I'll close it on this before we throw it back over.
Hey, 1 second, I got it. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Is just ultimately you have to know with the favorites in the NFL, especially when you're talking about the Super Bowl champs and Mahomes. This is like boxing, man. The heavyweight champ gets the slow count. Like if it's down to a second or two, like they're going to give them that to get up off of the mat, and you got to still be able to beat them. That's simply how it is. We had to play against the Chiefs where they got the calls of the O-line the entire game. That's just part of it. Until you've established that you're a moneymaker for the NFL and you're a winner, you don't get those calls. They do. Like that is how all of this works. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny to see the Vikings kind of dealing with what we were dealing with last year, where you're playing like pretty good teams, pretty good football teams, and you're like 1 score away from winning these games, and you just can't kind of pull it off.
Yeah.
I think kind of what Cleary was saying these past few weeks is they're a bad, good football team. I don't think the Vikings are that bad. No. And I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be another 1-score game, and they are looking pretty human. The Chiefs are going to win. Okay, the Chiefs are definitely going to win this football game, but what
does the coin know that we don't? That's what I need to figure out.
The coin he's gonna do something crazy here, and I can't wait to see. But yeah, the Chiefs, but the Vikings are getting the treatment that we got last year, where they're not getting lucky every single game, and they were a lucky football team, and that's gonna regress. You know what I'm saying? So
Already
they're not
has.
getting that anymore. Yeah, it's already regressed.
Are you on the Chiefs here?
I'm on the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm not switching my pick.
All right, let's go to the coin. Obviously, it'll be Chiefs as the heads here, and Vikings as the underdog tails. It literally just like spun around on its edge multiple times, and it went Vikings.
I knew it, dude. I knew it.
I mean, that'll be huge. That'll be all right, spin zone. That'll be huge if it does hit just from a favorites standpoint on the parlay. Like that could be big money for the boys.
For the Dobie pick parlay of the week, do we do money line or do we do -5 or +5? Like what is the we have to do money line.
It's money line.
Yeah, this is I think this is the game.
Okay.
Oh, it's money line.
I had a feeling the coin was going to do that. I knew
he was going to do that.
He likes to pick them spicy. So with that, we'll close with the final game in the division this week, and it's Green Bay at Las Vegas. The Packers are favored here by 2. It is going to be the Monday night game. So a little bit added pressure. You get to see Jordan Love in back-to-back primetime slots against, what's like a pretty bad Raiders team. I'm not sure what the status of Jimmy G is going to be for this game. I have a feeling that he'll play, but I don't think there's a substantial difference between him and O'Connell. I think that either way, they're like a good bad team. They're not really too scary, but they still have some of those good pieces left over, such as Jerry Jacobs and Crosby. So I think, and Devontae Adams as well too, which will be a piece if they do end up starting to explode and selling
Max Crosby.
That him or Devontae Adams have been linked. Everybody's thinking that they're going to end up selling him. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game, honestly, because I think there's a component to the Packers that you're just really, really not sure if they're any good. I mean, we exposed them as showing that they're definitely not like a top tier, like a top 5, top 10 team. But now we're going to kind of find out, like, are they even like a top 15 type team? Are they even like a middle of the road team? And I think it's going to be tough to play in Las Vegas under the lights. I do think that Vegas is going to be hungry here and looking for an upset. The piece that I don't know and should have looked at before this is how the injury situation is played out for the Packers, because I know they're missing so many people across the line. I know their left tackle, also can't say his name, is going to be out for the rest of the season. So it's going to be problems for Max Crosby that entire game. Like, I think he's going to be getting to Love. I think I'm talking myself into it. I think I like the Raiders in this spot, man, because they can do a lot of similar things that we did. They can pound the ball with Jacobs. They can get after the quarterback with Crosby. And I think especially if Jimmy G comes back, they can do just enough in a close one to get the win here on a Monday night and really cause a lot of questions and doubt in the minds for Packers players.
I was going to say
faithful.
I was going to say the exact same thing as you. This is a game where it's like, are the Packers good, or are they, a decent team? Are they a bad team? Because I think they sort of got a little bit exposed by the Lions in that game, and it's a weird line. It's like +2. I think the Packers aren't a bad team, and I don't like picking all favorites. I don't think I've done that. I don't know if I've done that yet, but yeah, I think I'm going to pick the Packers for this one, just because I think they actually are a pretty decent football team, and I think they have a bounce back game this week, because I think after watching Matt LaFleur cry on national television, I think he was probably crying all week. You know what I mean? He's probably still crying right now, and he's saying, like, can we please not play like that again? And I think they have a little bit a better game this week.
They're like, please, we'll do anything if you just
Yeah,
stop
like,
crying.
stop, could we fight? We gotta fight.
I think the score of the Lions-Packers game was not indicative of what happened, but they did maintain some shred of dignity in the second half there. On the other hand, we're very pro Aiden podcast, and I think Aiden O'Connell is going to be a pretty good football player in the NFL. And it looks like he's like Jimmy G's still kind of status is still up in the air. But I think like Christian Watson is coming back. They're going to be in the Dome in Vegas. They're going to be hundreds of miles away from Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions and Isaiah Buggs. If they have any luck, they'll be able to get Isaiah Buggs out of their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm rolling with the Packers. They're going to be hungry, and there's no way we have it this good that the Packers lose this game to a bad Raiders team and they also unravel. There's just no way.
There's no way. That would be too good.
Let's go to the coin. So Packers is favorite, -2. They'll be heads, and the Raiders will be tails. It likes Packers.
Yeah.
We've got our parlay set.
Okay. All right. So I'm tied going into this week. Coin has Vikings. I have Chiefs. That'll be the difference maker.
That'll be the big one. So
I
think
that son of a gun. That coin.
He likes to stay crafty. He's watching the standings. He's watching the scoreboard. I think with this, then we can move in to our final segment. We'll go ahead. We'll hang some banners, and this is the week that this segment was made for, man. I mean, the best one to hang is I would like to hang primetime game that you win is over at halftime. I don't think that's ever happened. Like literally ever happened to me. Like sure, the Packers made it a little bit exciting when they tried to get it within 9, but this was never even a 1-score game after we got outside of the first half of the first quarter. So to see Detroit sports come up so big on such a national stage, it was everything that I dreamed it would be. Hang that banner.
Yes, sir.
Cleary?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a little bit of attention around this, and it's almost getting kind of old. Like people are pulling out the came into your trap and took over your trap, and like Justin Tucker got on it and was all nerdy about it, but I have a feeling that this may have been RC's banner, but we came into their trap and we took over their trap. So I thought that was a banner that we can just put up in Lambeau that some kind of like this is our trap now, and picture Bugs on it because he owns them. The other one I think for me is just some kind of dodged bullet banner because that felt like a win in itself. The group chat was going off when Brian Branch got hurt. We had people diagnosing torn Achilles from thousands of miles away. And so the fact that he came back in and that image when they were taping him up in the second half, that was pretty cool. So dodged a bullet week 4. We need to celebrate that somehow.
The not cursed injury luck banner.
Yes.
I also credit to me. I kind of knew that he or thought that it wouldn't be too serious because I just live by this soundbite that I've seen. I brought it up in back-to-back weeks. As Brian Branch said, for whatever reason, he's just prone to cramping. He cramps like all the time. So I was just hoping and thinking that it could have been potentially one of those, which who's to say it wasn't. I honestly think it might have been something like that, Cleary, because it was kind of like you saw his calf tense up there.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they let him go back out, I feel like that's at least what he tried to convince the trainers it was. But that was huge to know that like our prized little rookie possession was going to be gone for the year.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit worse than that. Just
probably like 2 weeks.
Just because he didn't practice today.
Yeah.
Now I think it's something more serious. Now I think he he probably at least sprained that ankle.
I've already mentioned this 4 times, but watching their head coach cry on TV at halftime,
making a grown man cry.
I've never been happier watching him come out. I might have to watch that halftime interview again just because it gets me going. I might
put
even
the audio in.
I might put the audio right here.
I mean, it's very humbling and embarrassing right now.
What did you tell your team at the half?
I said we got to be able to look each other in the eye, man to man, and give it up for one another this whole second half. I want to see this team fight.
And just then we'll put a clap out. That's your head coach. That's Matt LaFleur. That was what we did to him emotionally. We did that emotionally to him.
Put him in
defeated him
absolute
emotionally.
prison.
Just hang it.
Bugs did that. Everybody did that. But Bugs owns him too now.
Bugs like.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see that. I was so happy watching that. I was doing the gritty while watching him like cry.
I've got one more, which it's crazy because it's the second time this season that we've gotten this one. But since you're playing on Thursday night, the big advantage to that is that on Friday we're the only thing to talk about, and we just got every single ESPN, all the sports talking heads, just absolutely loving on us and being able to drink that in. I think I was on my phone just scrolling the timeline, taking any piece of praise from that. So being able to get like victory Mondays, don't get me wrong, those are fantastic. But a victory Friday, when, you're just going into the weekend with having everybody saying nice things about the Lions. It's my favorite banner.
Yeah. I think we have the best Thursday night football game on Amazon Prime of all time too. And they should send us like $5 million for that because I don't think they've had a good game yet. So they should
no Swifty.
They should send us a banner for that best Thursday night football game and then $5 million.
Yeah.
Pay whoever's contract.
We put those numbers up against the Chiefs without any Taylor Swift.
Exactly. So we have the best 2 Thursday night football games.
Yeah. I think there's something there. I think fans should have incentives. Like players have all these incentives for rushing yards and touchdowns in the season. I think a fan base should have some incentives from Amazon. You know, if we buoy up enough, if we, you know, I even had separate streams going just for that rating. Yeah. Like I was at a bar, but I had the stream going just so we could get our numbers up. Toss us a bone, Amazon. Like I think we should negotiate for next year. But like we're clearly the best fan base. You're seeing even the Packers fans are complaining about how many Lions fans are there.
Soft.
Just we deserve our due, you know.
So the Lions either should get. So this is what I think we all agree on. The Lions should either get $5 million from Amazon, or every single Lions fan gets a $50 Amazon gift card.
Yeah,
and I think that's like deserved, right? I mean,
that would get me like a cool hat and like a bottle opener or 2.
Yeah, these days
I deserve that much.
These days.
Right.
I also wanted to mention the fact, because I forgot to mention this earlier, is that we went to practice early this week, Cleary. So Dan is mad about this Panthers game. I forgot because they practiced today on Tuesday. Yeah. So they're ready to. They're angry.
No,
they're dying to go.
No, I can tell just by what's leaking out. Like Dan Campbell's not a fun guy to be around. Like you get stuck in the elevator with him in the building, and it's just kind of like weird. Like, what's wrong with this guy?
I feel like Cleary, he's definitely one of those guys. You don't want to be like eating the wrong thing around him, putting like poison in your body. But I do think this is. I want to close with this. Can you tell the Jim Harbaugh Chipotle chicken story?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think you if you're around like football guys like this enough, I can tell he's been hurt. Like I said, he's been hurt before, and he's been played under guys like this. But yeah, the kind of thing I'm talking about is Harbaugh. One of our buddies, Wilton Spate, was coming in the summer to like, watch film and meet, and he had a Chipotle bag, and so Harbaugh was just like shooting the shit, asking him what he got, and he was shocked, like appalled to hear that he got chicken in his burrito bowl, because chicken is a timid animal, and that sort of lack of aggression and that that attitude is going to come off, and if you eat that, you're bound to get some of that timid attitude, and that's not what a football player should be putting into their body. And I'm sure, honestly, the idea of Harbaugh coming to the NFC North and coming to the Bears does freak me out a little bit, because I doubt there's anyone who's seriously, like, genuinely at that level. But what Dan Campbell is doing right now is consciously pushing to give off those weirdo football guy vibes, to make sure that, because it's his job to make sure that the team does not fall into the trap and believe the hype.
I think
Harbaugh's a little different.
I think that Harbaugh, I'm not entirely sure that he's not like a big dairy plant though. With some of the hype I've heard him give around that he got like 2 or 3 extra inches like than his brother did, because he just hammered milk all the time, and now his like really anti chicken propaganda. He's like the opposite of the Chick-fil-A cows. He's just like, no, like they're timid. And I honestly, like, people, he's not afraid to get up there and give like more controversial opinions, but I think he needs to get this take out into the world a little bit more, because Chipotle's taken off. More people are eating chicken every day, and anxiety is running rampant in America. And it's like, do we have a timid chicken problem? Is Jim Harbaugh onto something larger?
Yeah,
I think I got to switch to steak. I already switched to the carne asada, but I mean, now I feel like that's what's been going wrong.
Yeah,
and the Lions have been
maybe
winning.
No more
oozing testosterone.
Yeah, no more chicken at Chipotle. That's a fact.
I'm not a doctor, but we can't say for sure that that's not true. I think that's the crazy part about this whole thing, is there might be something there. It's whatever he's doing is working.
No one's disproving it. No losses in the Big Ten.
Yeah, the Uncle Ricos of the world and the steak and corn type folks. I'm not seeing much timid, much hesitation.
Very few Big Ten championships.
If they're out of steak at Chipotle, I'm walking out.
Yeah.
Dope shit like that, Jerem. Oh, hi. Welcome back to Kids. Follow your dreams.